Hi, my name is Paul, and if you scroll through some of my content here, you'll see I've made a lot of videos about perception and world history and esoteric psychology and mythological and metaphysical types of subjects. But I talk a lot about perception, and today I want to talk a little bit more about that in regard to the way that when we present ourselves online, we have this method of communication, and sometimes, for example, through text and so on, a lot of things get misunderstood. And I've been accused a lot of I'm a know-it-all, or I have some very strange ideas and all that. So I'd like to address that, because I know a lot of people who watch these videos, and maybe they have their own channels and they have content that they produce, that if you go too far away from the so-called norms, then there's a certain group of people that will just think, okay, well, we're not going to talk to that guy anymore. And I want to address that, because I know some of the people who watch my videos, they may even be friends once in a while, they actually watch them. And I want to address some things, because I believe I get misunderstood, and it's natural, okay? I expect that to a certain degree. People watch maybe 5 minutes of one of my videos, and I'm talking about something that they can't relate to, and then they just get, well, that guy's off the wall. Now, if you watch a lot of my other videos, I have a lot of videos about very practical things. For example, I have a pilot license, a basic pilot license, and it took some study and some practice to get that license, and it's very it's precise. The same way with electronics. I studied a lot of electronics when I was young, and it's precise. I'm a very practical person, so when I present things that I am reporting, basically, it's because I've done a lot of research and I connect a lot of dots. Now, I've made other videos about perception and how you can connect 5 dots and you get like maybe a pentagon or something, but what if the number of dots is actually supposed to be 500 dots, and then you got to do a lot more drawing before you get the whole picture, you see? So I try to go out, and I'm not an authority, okay? I present information on here as, okay, here's some information, look at it, because I'm a really big believer in independent thinking and arriving at our own conclusions through our own perception. But we have to have the responsibility to go out and look for that information, because, for example, if someone says, okay, like if you go outside of this little wall here, you're going to be eaten by a crocodile. You say, well, I don't believe there's any crocodiles out there, and they never go outside the wall, so they never get eaten by a crocodile. Fine, but that doesn't mean there aren't any crocodiles on the other side of that wall. You see, so that's a silly example perhaps, but there are things that we don't know about that if we did know about them, it might make a big difference in the way we approach our life and reveal a very different whole purpose for our existence. And I've talked about that a lot in other videos about inner revelation and perception. Now, I'm not getting into that right now, because I'm really going to talk about practical stuff. It's very important for us to broaden our horizons and our perceptions so that we are properly guided in our own life. And this is what the ancients taught, the history. If we're supposed to learn something from history, is that there's a lot to learn. You see, I've been told, oh yeah, I'm a know-it-all. Well, no, I'm not a know-it-all. I mean, I read a lot. I used to read like textbooks for fun, but that was a long time ago, and now I just listen, okay? But the point is that I search things for my own answers, and when I come to a conclusion, my own answers, I say, oh look, this is what conclusion I've come to, but I have a lot more information I'd like to share with you, because if you have this other information, that you might change your perspective. You see, it's not like, I'm a know-it-all. You see, I'm just saying, like, if in every situation, like for example, even in scouting, okay, you want to get somebody up on a high mountain so that they can see a little bit longer. You can send one guy up there, or maybe, in shipping, okay, in the old days they had these sailing ships and they have these frigate things way up there. You send some guy way up there to hang on there and look around and see if he can see some land or something, or any other ships up there. You see, as someone like myself, I do a lot of research, and I won't bore you with the details, but I cover a lot. It's not just in one area, because I have a balance. I have a left brain and a right brain, and I use them both. And as in a simulator of information, I think I'm pretty good at it. And I can share, if I share something with you that seems controversial, just look into it a little bit, because I'm not always right, but I'm just saying that there's areas that we look into that's like, that I've looked into in my life that, man, like, wow, that's a pretty big rabbit hole, and it goes way down. And on the literal side of that, if you just think about this, for example, there have been witnesses that come out now that have, they were engineers and they worked on these projects. They say there's a lot of really, really big underground bases in this world, even in the United States. I mean, we're talking like hundreds of them, are big, big things. And they have people that, they built these things under the sea where the submarines can dock down there where nobody even sees them. They just slide into this tube, and then it comes up on an island somewhere. I mean, it's just, they have stuff that we just can't even conceive of, okay? I'll tell you a little, for example, years ago I did a little bit of a proofreading, and I went for this company. They wanted me to proofread a whole document. It was about like, it was all like futuristic. It was back in the 80s, military hardware. They're gonna have like roads that tracked everybody, and all that stuff. Back then it sounded like really fanciful, and it was written in all this gobbledygook language, like, and I'm thinking, man, they're planning 30, 40 years ahead of time with this technology. And that's the kind of stuff you get witnessing. You get people come out of the woodwork, people who are witnesses, whistleblowers, and they come out and they say, well, they were down in Antarctica and they saw stuff down there, and they've been on these underground bases, and they know that there's secret space activity going on, and there's secret inventions, and there's all kinds of patents that we don't know about, and weapons that we don't know about. I mean, nuclear weapons, I mean, that's the boogeyman. Okay, yeah, they're dangerous for sure. We shouldn't have them. But there's worse weapons. There's worse weapons. If they said, well, okay, this poor country over here, let them have a little nuke, because we know that we got this other weapon. As soon as they start building those nukes, we'll neutralize them. So there's stuff that matters, okay? In the geopolitical situation, in our personal life, it matters to understand what's really going on. Now, you have to be bold and go out and look for that information. You have to go out and look in some places, because it's not going to be on the news. You're not going to see on the news that one day they just come out and say, well, guess what? We have like 108 underground bases in the country, and they got an underground tunnel system with trucks and trains that go down there. They're not going to say that on the news. But you get whistleblowers that come out, and it's not just one whistleblower. You say, this is the whole thing. See, if you get one person that says one thing, but then you say, who is it that's saying? For example, a lot of people don't know this, but the previous, I think he was the deputy, military, high-level military defense minister. I think his name was, I've forgotten his name. Anyway, he came out of Paul Hellyer, I think his name is, from Canada, okay? Now, he came out publicly and said, well, yeah, we know about UFOs. Yeah, we know. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's other beings, and they know all this stuff. And who's saying it? It's not just one person saying it. There's all kinds of people saying stuff like this. And it goes on and on and on. Now, if you go look into this, your hair will stand on end. There's stuff going on the planet right now that you probably don't even want to know about. So the point I'm trying to say is, look, when I make a statement, I've said some bold statements, and I've said some things that, like, probably, okay, I'm learning. I keep learning. But I'm confident, the more confident I get, because I'm not a stupid person, and I am not an unknowing person, because I research and I cross-reference, and when you start seeing the whole picture, okay, the big, big picture of the cosmology on this planet, there's just, to understand what's going on, you have to get into some of the mythology and the stories from the past, and like maybe even do some contemplation and meditation, and maybe read what some of these sages and saints said about, what the planet is and all what's going on here. And there's many, many cultures from the past said not only were we not alone in the solar system, but we had other visitors, and we interacted with them. They said this. I mean, many, many cultures said that. You see? And even today, this is the thing. See, today, a lot of people don't realize it, but every single month there's thousands and thousands and thousands around the world of UFO sightings. People are getting pictures now. They're getting video, and they're like, what the hell is that thing? And people are getting abducted, and they're coming forward. There's all kinds of really strange stuff going on. And you can laugh all you want, but start looking into it. It'll make your hair stand on end. I have this one statement. It's an old statement. Like, reality ain't what we think. There's a lot more to this existence that we're living than we realize. Just imagine, for example, an animal is born in a zoo, and maybe it has a pretty big pen. Maybe it has, I've been to the zoos where they have all the field and the monkeys can run up a tree and whatever, but they're still in a cage, really. They can't really go anywhere, but they can have a lot of fun in there. That's what human beings have become, pretty much. We have our traps that we build ourselves. People, there's a show, The Truman Show. There's people, they live their whole life, and maybe they don't even go out of their little town, or maybe they never go out of their whole state. They watch the news, and they say, well, what that country over there, they have no idea where it is, or what the history is, or who lives there, or what they're like over there, how they live. No clue. So our perception matters, our perception of history, our perception of our own possibilities and being, and what's the purpose of our life here. Now, I've been warning about this time for a long time. I've found out things that came true years later after I said that. I predicted like a worldwide civilization of intercommunication. Back in the 80s, I was saying that. I'm not even recording it, but I said one day there's going to be a communication saturation, and we're going to have live video from around the world. And I knew that because I knew something about the technology. It's not, if you connect a lot of dots, it's not rocket science. It's not fanciful. It's not conspiracy thinking. It's just connecting a lot of dots, real dots. Not just, if you connect enough dots, okay, maybe you don't get all the dots, not every single dot, but you get enough to get a really good picture. At least 100 dots is better than 10. So the responsibility for us knowing what we need to know is ours, is us. That whatever the media says, whatever even I'm saying, other people are saying to you, ultimately we take it in, we understand, we assimilate it, and we coordinate it with other perceptions, our own perceptions, so that we have the experience and certainty in our own life, the clarity. You see? Just like you check the weather, you watch some other news, but then you go outside and stick your hand out there and see if they're right. See, maybe they're wrong. And I can't really get into some of the political stuff. Honestly, for me, there's a lot of common sense here. When these, destruction and lying and corruption, no, I can't go there, okay? Someone who's at least trying to have some order and trying to have some inspiration. At least they're trying, okay? Maybe they're trying. I have this joke. I said sometimes there are people on this planet who think like they're the kind of people that if they didn't like the pilot of the plane that they're on, maybe they didn't like his voice or his hair or his attitude, they go up and shoot him while they're on the plane and let the plane crash. Like, at least let the plane land, and then you can shoot him if you don't like him. But at least get down. We can't, choose our leaders on popularity or the way they look. They have to be functional. At least they have to be able to get the job done. I've been watching this political show for 50 years, and frankly, it just got worse and worse. We thought Nixon was bad. But seriously, folks, I'd like to have a dialogue. I get comments, and most of them are nice. I get now and then off-ball playing, but I tell you what, I get the reaction from my family and members because they can't go there. Like, I've connected like 1,000 dots, and they got 10, and like we can't even start to have a conversation. Where do I begin? Where do I begin? But I tell you what, you want to begin with something? Try starting with human trafficking. Follow that rabbit hole, see where that goes, because it's big. It's been a long, long time. Essentially, if you read history, it's gold and slavery. Gold and slavery. Look, slavery blacks have enslaved blacks, whites have enslaved whites. It's an old story. You know, slavery is slavery. Slavery is really an economic thing. It's rich people with elitist power type of people, and they want to control non-rich people. You see, that's really basically what it comes down to. You know, and it could be any color. You know, if they don't like you, I mean, you could be the same race they are, but they, off with their heads or whatever. It's happened plenty of times. You know. The revolution in Europe, there was white against white. There wasn't very many black people up there, and 500 years ago. So, again, perception. Before you judge things that I say or anyone else says, at least get a little bit of openness, because, I'm just a reporter. I'm connecting the dots. There's many other people out there who are closer to the source of a lot of the information that I convey. For example, I know enough about science to understand what physicists and astronomers talk about. But I'm not a physicist myself, and I have some electronics training and experience, but I'm not an electrical engineer, you see, so I have enough understanding of things so I understand a subject, and then I can put it together with something else, because a lot of times people in a specialty, whatever specialty they may have, they have a specialty and they don't link it to anything else. You see, for example, in archaeology, they don't link archaeology to engineering. They have the archaeologists have this fanciful idea about how certain things were made, or whatever, like the pyramids, and then you talk to an engineer and say, well, wait a minute, I don't think they could do that with those kind of tools. You see, there's some other answer. If something doesn't make sense, we don't have enough information yet, you see, and a lot of things that are going on in the world today politically, there are underlying things, just take my word for it, there are things going on that are beyond, we can't even go there, and it's so complicated because, for example, we're not even really alone here, and that's a whole nother subject. You can look into that, but there's power elites that have been on this, for a long, long time. This is obvious, okay? We don't have to debate that. You go back in history, it doesn't take long to figure out that, way, way back, there's always been elites and kings and all this royalty and all this kind of stuff. And then, in modern era, they, like the royals of Saudi Arabia, whatever, or some of those royals over there, they're rich because someone cracked a deal with them and say, well, you get all the oil in the country and you can be rich as hell and be the queens and kings and whatever. But how do you get to be a king? I guess you just get born in the right place or something. That's how you get to be a king. But anyway, this stuff has been going on for a long time. It's financial control, it's a control of labor, and it's a control of resources. Gold and slavery. Human resources and economics. Bank money, gold, whatever you call it, dollar bills, whatever, and human labor. Human labor is a resource, and it's being used and abused for thousands of years. You see, that's why we have to exercise some of our own sovereignty over our own being and say, look, wait a minute here, I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave. We're not born to be slaves for anybody. You see, and if we don't know that, we got to know that down deep in ourselves. We're not supposed to be slaves here. We're not supposed to be. Someone walks up to us and say, "Here, you got to wear this mask." Well, excuse me. I think I have some questions about that. You want me to wear a mask? It's got to have some reason for it. So, if we don't understand our basic rights, the Constitution. Okay, I'm not an expert in the Constitution. Okay, but I listen to experts. I listen to world-class experts, and they tell me what they think the Constitution is, and they know it better than anyone's going to argue with me. So if someone comes up to me and says, well, someone said to me recently, well, you don't know the Constitution. When's the last time you read it? I said, well, I don't really read it. I listen to the experts who practice law for 30, 40 years. And I hear what they say, and I'm telling you what they say, so don't argue with me. Just go argue with them. But I can't get that, because, you know, online someone just texts me or whatever and they say, well, you're an idiot or whatever, and that's how it goes. But I talk about some really profound things in some of my other videos, esoteric things, esoteric psychology, and a lot of people would ask me, okay, well, where's your authority? I mean, where's your degree? I don't have a degree hanging on my wall. I have a lot of years of meditation and reading and trying to practice some of the things that are written in some of those most ancient things, like the Upanishads and Patanjali and so on. And I practice meditation. My own awareness, I have, you know, we're all just beings, okay? There's no levels up, you know, we're high, low, we're just one being. Ultimately, this is one being here, and we're trying to learn, and we're trying to understand. And you can immerse yourself, you can immerse your consciousness in music, in art, in so many creative activities and other things. And we don't have to think about ratios and comparisons of people are born with certain abilities and talents, okay? And I can't do a lot of things that certain people can do, and I don't even want to do a lot of them. And there are things that I've come to understand through my own personal, unique experience that I can share. That if you go down this rabbit hole, if you go down this line, ask this question, and you're going to find out the same answer that I'm telling you. I'm just giving you a report. I say just try it. Go, for example, just experiment with some of the ideas that I present and learn and go read some books or listen to some experts about some of these things and see what your conclusion is about these things, including the pandemic and everything. Any subject that you think is controversial. Like, okay, are there other beings in this solar system? Are there? Good question. I'm saying I'm pretty sure there are. And there have been for a long time. That's what the ancients say. And there's been a lot of testimony. Even in modern era, people have encountered these beings. Many kinds of beings. Why would it be unusual that there's other beings? Have you seen some of the animals? Some of the animals out there look pretty darn strange. We can't even conceive of how they even exist. But there are other beings. They don't have bodies like us necessarily. But the main thing is our own potential. We have that potential ourselves. What is our being? Well, our being, there are sages who said, look, this body that you have, this gold mine body, the angel's body, the heavenly body, the body that the gods envy or whatever. That's what they say in the Upanishads. So look in the mirror and say, well, what am I missing here? Maybe there's some knobs and buttons and controls in this little body that I got here that I don't know about. Just like if you get a Ferrari and there's a lot of buttons in that Ferrari, just like certain airplanes, man, there's a lot of buttons and gauges in that airplane. You gotta know what they all are. I fly a fairly simple airplane, but I've seen the cockpit of some of these big airplanes. Like, holy crap! There's a big manual this fat just to understand what they all do. So this life, this body that you have, it's a gift, and it has other frequencies that I can tune into, and it's important to expand our consciousness so we can understand this life that we're in. And I don't want to alarm people, and I don't want to irritate people, but I'm trying to say, look, we don't know how long we're going to be here. I mean, we go on with our life. Like, I'm 69, so luckily I've made it this far. But no matter how old you are, you don't know how long you're going to be here. So you might as well, start finding out what it's all about. So appreciate everybody. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate sharing and liking. We need to get the word out that there's a lot more to this life, and we should be not arguing with each other and trying to understand and respect each other's views, and just try to come to our own personal understanding of this life. So please like and share, and hope to see you in another video.